Okay, Tony Bellew in the building once again, the bomber. How have you been?
Me. All good, all good.
Good
Revitalised after a nice Christmas and New Year, so yeah.
Yeah, looking fresh.
Quiet, but spent with the family.
We just wanted to ask you about the Rotunda ABC. For those that don't know, legendary amateur boxing gym out of Liverpool. It's produced more than its fair share of world-class talent over the years. Tony Bellew being one, the Smith brothers, Natasha Jonas, for example. Do you remember your first time walking through those doors, and do you remember kind of the aura that it had and that impression it made on you?
I do remember walking through the doors for the first time. I went there for the very first time before I actually ever had a bout, and walked in and hit a bag a few times, and the mentor and the coach at the time, Jimmy Albertine, who sadly left us now, he was the main man. He watched me hit a bag and he just said, "Have you boxed?" And my response was, "No, I've never boxed." And he said, "Well, you have. Tell me who you've boxed for." And I said, "Well, I haven't." He said, "Kids who have had no bouts don't hit a bag like that."
Yeah.
I said, "No, my dad's taught me a couple of bits and bobs, but I haven't actually had a bout."
Wow.
And then I said to him, "When can I actually look at getting my first bout?" And he said, "Probably about 18 months. You don't tell me when you're going to box, kid, I tell you."
Fair play.
At that moment, I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to get any joy out of him for 18 months. I'm going to go somewhere else. Went to a place called Stockbridge ABC, had my first fight 6 weeks later. Won by knockout, and then after 3 more fights I ended up back to Rotunda with my tail between my legs asking Jimmy could I box with him. So
he
that
was right in the
lesson.
end.
Yeah, he was definitely right in the end, but yeah, good times, an amazing gym.
Yeah.
Without them 4 walls and without Jimmy Albertine coming into my life when he did, I would never have achieved what I did. There's so many others along the way. There's Terry Quinn, there's Noel Corliss, there's Mark Kinney, there's loads of names, but Rotunda was the place where I realised my true potential, and that's where I learned how to train as well.
Right,
like no one trained like them. We trained like professional fighters, amateur boxers. It was a hardcore gym with ultimately brilliant fighters. You know, the likes of Joseph Selkirk, Joe McNally, Declan O'Rourke, the Smith brothers. Tasha came on a little bit later on. So many champions it's produced, and in where I'm from in Liverpool in the northwest, you know, we've knocked out how many world champions out of one gym and out of one, possibly one kind of little error of me with the Smiths, with Tasha. You know, you've got 4 world champions there.
Yeah, David Price as well out there.
David Price, he came out of the Solly.
Did he? Yeah.
So they were our rivals back in the day.
Oh,
but
right,
I'd say we all come together as one because we're Scousers before we're anything else. But the Rotunda ABC is the only one in Liverpool that's produced one of the 4 belt world champions in a long time.
Incredible. And kind of in a more general sense, amateur boxing, the power of it, you spoke so highly of it. Do you think it has the power to save lives, really, doesn't it? Change lives, take people out from an environment where they might be getting involved in things that they shouldn't be in, and
100% saved mine. I know it's an old cliche of boxers saying, "Oh, it saved my life." I don't even know what I'd be doing. I was doing anything to make ends meet because I had this dream of one day becoming a world champion boxer. If I didn't have that dream, I only dreamed of having nice things. And let's be totally honest, I didn't have the education behind me or the brain power to achieve them nice things.
Right.
So a kid coming from where I'm from, it's only going to end in one way.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it goes. But thankfully, I had Rotunda, I met Jimmy Albertine, I had those good parents behind me, and it worked out in the end. But without them 4 walls of Rotunda ABC, I don't know what would have happened to my life.
Well, hopefully you've inspired some of the kids from the area now to follow in your footsteps and pursue a dream like you did. So
I'd like to hope so.
I'm pretty sure you would have. In terms of amateur coaching in boxing is so important, isn't it? And they often are unpaid. You know, they put their time and their effort in. How can we make sure that the supply of amateur boxing coaches doesn't dry up?
Well, all the amateur boxing coaches are unpaid. They're doing it out of the kindness of their own heart. They're doing it because they want to help kids, develop kids, and also they want to make national champions. And Rotunda ABC turns out national champions every single year. We really do. So, and the coaches, as I said before, they're not paid. So the least we can do is try and help them with their expenses that they incur. You know, traveling isn't cheap.
No.
Whether it's driving a bus, whether it's getting on trains, whether, you know, these guys are going to different shows every day of the week. And I say they're not being paid. If we can try and just help cover their expenses, make the stay in a hotel the night before a little bit easier, so they're not leaving, you know, at 6 o'clock in the morning to box at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and then being on a train for 4 hours. Just little things like that, and these donations go a long way. So I'm so grateful to the guys, and you know, I can't thank them enough. It goes such a long way, so thank you.
Oh, what a brilliant cause, and long live the Rotunda ABC.
Yes, definitely, thank you.
Thank you for being here with us today. Let's have a chat about some of the more recent boxing events. Obviously, you fought Alexander Usyk yourself.
Unfortunately.
But what an incredible fight that was. You didn't come out on the right side, but we've gone on to see, what's that, 6 years ago nearly now?
Yep.
Time's flying, but we've seen, you know, how much of an incredible boxer he is.
Yeah.
Not that you weren't, but,
Yeah,
you know, his career's progressed.
The best, mate.
He's gone up to heavyweight since then. Now he's defeated Tyson Fury again. What did you make of the fight?
I thought it was a really good fight. I thought he was in complete control from the start to the finish. I just didn't think he looked... It didn't seem to be going against him in any way, shape or form. When I was watching the event live on the TV, I thought, oh, this is a bit close. And then when I watched it, I've watched it back 3 times now. And he's just decisive in every movement that he does. There's a reason for everything he does. And once again, he out-hustled him, he pressed him, he outworked him, he out-punched him in every round almost.
Yeah.
And he dominated him.
He threw less punches, didn't he, than Tyson Fury, but landed more.
Yeah,
That shows how...
He's out-punched him.
Yeah.
You know, it all depends what you hit. And you've got to remember, a lot of what Tyson Fury threw on the night hit gloves.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
Very, very little got through. I liked some of the body shots he threw. I thought it was smart and a clever ploy to attack the body. But if you're going to attack the body, you have to be putting pressure on, because you have to make them body shots count. And he didn't apply the pressure after landing some really good body shots.
Yeah.
I know he feels aggrieved and that he thinks that he didn't lose, but you know, I think even his promoter now has gone back on record as saying
Frank Warren has kind of backed down a bit, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's reviewed the fight and doesn't think it was a robbery anymore. You know, I think common sense, he's still going to side with Tyson Fury. That's his man. But I'm completely... It's the word I'm looking for. I'm not biased to any of them. I think both of them are great fights. I think
neutral,
both of them are great lads. I'm a neutral, and you just got to score it as you see it. Yeah. On the night, I think I scored it to him by 2, but in hindsight, I think it's more like 3 or 4. And I'd say that's no disrespect to Tyson Fury. He's always going to struggle with a fighter like Alexander Usyk. The biggest thing about it is Alexander Usyk didn't use his greatest assets and strength to beat him. He used probably his greatest weakness, and his greatest weakness is his actual offense. Him going forward and pressing fights is not his strength.
No.
His strength is going on the back foot. You've seen that against the likes of Murat Gassiev. I tried to do it with him. I tried to bring him to me, and I was successful for 7 rounds. But unfortunately for me, the fight had 12 rounds to go, and I got stopped in the 8th. But
that's true.
For someone like Tyson Fury to be pressed and dictated to the way he was by Alexander over 24 rounds, not just 12, is unbelievable. It really is. So I give him all the credit in the world. I think both are amazing fighters. Tyson Fury will be back 100% if he wants to, that is. I think he's the second best heavyweight in the world.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting there, because we've got a question here. After both Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua have recently suffered defeats, it looks like the only bout out there for each other now is fighting each other. Yeah.
Possibly, but I think that the huge clamour's died down a little bit for it. I mean, I seen a clip on my way up here today, on my way down here, today, and it said, what would you rather see more, Canelo and Crawford or Fury and AJ? And you know what? I thought to myself, oh, if you'd asked me that 12 months ago, I'd have jumped to Fury and AJ all day. But if you'd asked me now, I don't know. I think I might want to see Canelo. I don't know.
Tough
Do you know what? For British boxing and the domestic scene, I'd rather see Fury and AJ. But for an actual boxing match and a spectacle,
there's a lot to be
Canelo
said.
and Crawford is right up there. I mean, listen,
It'd be huge.
If I could make any fight in boxing right now, it would be Tank and Inoue.
Yeah, I was going to mention that actually, because people have said it's impossible, but actually the weight he walks around at,
it's not too far away.
Impossible,
but at the same time, there's a few. I mean, Bam and Inoue, I'd love to see. It's another exceptional fight. There's so many good fights that are available to the world, pound for pound. If people fluctuating between weights, ultimately, I'm not going to lie, I don't like fighters going too far above the natural weights.
No.
It doesn't
good health-wise.
No, it doesn't look good for me. And then you're only going to lose because of size, and no fighter should ever lose purely because of size. You should lose because you wasn't good enough or your skill set weren't up there. So I don't know how many more divisions Inoue can go, but I don't want to see him lose because he just weren't big enough. That'd be sad.
No, that would be sad. Okay, quick prediction then for Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, if it does happen in the summer.
I've always said it and I'll stick by it. I just think Anthony Joshua will be forced to let his hands go, and I think he'll knock out Tyson Fury. Do I think he's the better fighter? No, but not always the better fighter wins. I've been in fights myself where I've beat fighters who are better than me, a la David Haye.
Yeah, fair play. Good point, actually. Yeah. Well, I think it's hard to being a bit harsh on yourself there.
I've beat him twice, but I just think he's a better fighter than me. His skill set's better than mine. He's stronger than me. He's quicker than me. It's just that styles make fights, and if you can make David miss, you're always going to make him pay. But I'm happy to go down in history. He's going to go down as a far greater fighter than I ever will.
I don't know about that, but it's very humble of you to say that. Daniel Dubois, he challenged Usyk in the ring after the fight. Maybe it was a bit kind of crass, a bit too soon, perhaps. You know, he's just gone 12 rounds with Tyson Fury, and he's in his face, calling him out.
I've seen people and the reactions to it. I think people's reactions, they've taken it more personal than Alexander Usyk actually took it himself, to be fair.
He took it quite well.
He's cool and calm. These guys are begging now for the payday because they know who the king is.
That's right.
And these guys need him. He doesn't need them. No. Alexander Usyk can choose to fight whoever he wants. He is now the draw in the heavyweight division. He is the big name. Yeah. And I take my hat off to Anthony Joshua, and I take my hat off to Tyson Fury because they had the cojones to face him, as did Daniel Dubois. But let's not get away from anything. Daniel Dubois fought him once, and we've seen how that fight went. Yeah. Everyone goes on about a shot. Let's just be brutally honest. It hit the protector. Why is it called the protector? Because it protects you from certain shots. Was it like? Did anyone look at the belt line of Tyson Fury before the fight?
It was high, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was,
really high.
I was going to ask what's the neck on them shorts.
Yeah,
but it was nuts. But no one said anything.
No.
But then ultimately when Alexander Usyk fights Daniel Dubois and his shorts are on his navel and you can clearly see his belly button at times in the fight, no one said, all of a sudden his shorts are high. So it's whatever suits people's narrative and agendas at the time. For people who are Fury fans, they want to say Usyk's done this or he's robbed that. For people who are Dubois fans, just look at the cold, hard facts. He hits him on the protector. The protector's called the protector for a reason. And then ultimately, look at how the fight ended up. I mean, he had enough.
On his knees, wasn't he, by the end, on one knee. But also, he's got to get through Joseph Parker before you even start thinking about the rematch with Usyk. So
and that's no mean feat.
No. How do you see that fight going? Because that is scheduled, isn't it, for
Joseph
February?
Parker, Daniel Dubois aside, is the most informed heavyweight in the world.
Yeah, both of them in great form, to be fair, yeah.
If anything, I think actually Joseph Parker is in better form than Daniel Dubois because that spree of fights of Deontay Wilder, Zhilei Zhang.
Yeah, great.
Let's just look at it for what it is.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous because Zhilei Zhang was undefeated, in my opinion, until he faced Joseph Parker.
He's becoming a bit of a giant killer, Joseph Parker, really, isn't he?
He really has. And I've got to give
Daniel Dubois next on the list for him? Yeah.
It's a potential, potentially. I just got to give him massive credit. The job him and Andy Lee have done since they've worked together has been phenomenal. And I just feel... don't get me wrong, I think the styles, and I look at the styles for this matchup, I find it hard to back against Daniel Dubois because, listen, Joe's not the hardest to hit, but then I'll also be honest, Joe's got a bit of a pop as well. Joe Parker hits harder than probably Alexander Usyk.
Yeah, you would think.
Punch for punch wise, I would think so, being a career-long heavyweight. Okay, and he's got some good wins on his resume, but I don't know, I find it hard backing against Daniel Dubois in that fight purely for the reason of younger, fresher,
the power
point to prove.
Factor,
he does have the big power, but then Joseph Parker takes a hell of a shot.
That's true as
and
well.
I've seen him get off the floor on multiple occasions.
It'd be interesting, wouldn't it? It'd be interesting.
I'm not sure if he was on the floor against AJ, but he was on the floor heavily against Dillian White, got himself back up and done really well. So I've seen him on the floor a number of times, but he always gets up. So
Zhang put him down as well, didn't he?
Yeah, Zhang got him down.
He gets that go up and win on points. So.
Speaking to him, I've dealt with him a few times. He tells me Zhang's the hardest he's ever been hit by anyone. Right, he said Zhang's jabs were even hard. So like with Joe's words
he's got that snappy jab, hasn't he?
It's nasty.
A quick word about Usyk then, just before we move on. Currently confirmed himself now, isn't he, as the top heavyweight in the round. But where does he compare to the greatest heavyweights ever? And what does your top 5 heavyweights of all time look like now?
I think he's up there. On accolades alone and achievements, he's right up there.
Yeah, it's got to be, isn't he?
You'd have to look. He's come from the cruiserweight division where he's reigned, gone into everyone's backyard and beat them up on their own patch. He's gone to the heavyweight division which I didn't think he'd be able to fully. I thought he'd win a version of a world title at heavyweight. I thought he might be able to nick it off someone like a Joseph Parker or someone like that.
Yeah.
But to go up there and face the biggest and the baddest.
Do you think you could have done it in any era of heavyweight? Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. I struggle to have him ahead of Lennox Lewis.
I thought you were going to say Lennox, yeah.
Lennox is just...
Would have been what an interesting fight that would have been.
Mate, Lennox technically was brilliant.
Yeah.
And then with the great Emmanuel Stewart in his corner, I just think he it's not that he'd have figured him out, I think he'd have just been too much, because Lennox was the first of the giant header. Lennox was the first big guy. I'm not sure if Lennox is 6'4" or 6'5", but Lennox is a big dude, and I've met Lennox in person. Yeah. I was actually surprised when I met him in person. I thought he'd be bigger, but as guys get older, you know, the muscle mass decreases and stuff like that. So, I just thought he is a big lump. Imagine him in his heyday. He was a big guy, strong guy, but he had huge amounts of technical ability. So, I've got Usyk in the top 5, 100%. I just don't know where. I mean, a lot of mine is nostalgic and goes off the likes of Mike Tyson in his prime, and the prime was so short-lived.
Sadly true.
No one can ever deny Muhammad Ali. I think George Foreman's the greatest puncher who's ever graced the game. There's so many there or thereabouts. I couldn't give you a definite from 1 to 5.
That's 5 there, to be fair. You just don't know.
All I could say is I just don't know.
It probably changes on a day-to-day basis in some ways, For
achievements alone, Muhammad Ali is the greatest heavyweight ever.
Got to give it to him.
What he done in Zaire that year against George Foreman was just, like, people can't put into context. He was wrote off by the world. You know, George Foreman had knocked out Ken Norton, he'd knocked out Joe Frazier, 2 guys who had previously beaten Muhammad Ali.
Right.
And he went and flatlined Joe Frazier. He just took Ken Norton apart.
So a lot of people don't really know that because of how long ago it was.
And that's what people don't give him the credit. Like, I think that is the greatest result of any heavyweight fight ever. And people will talk about Buster Douglas against Mike Tyson, but in hindsight, we know that the lifestyle Mike was living at that time. It was crazy, it was wild, and he's spoken about it on numerous occasions. But for Muhammad Ali to beat George Foreman, like, he was a huge underdog. There was members of his team in the dressing room crying before the fight, the likes of Bundini, thinking that that Muhammad Ali could die in the ring. And who'd have thought that Muhammad Ali would go into the ring and face the greatest puncher boxing's ever seen and say, I'm going to win because I'm going to let him hit me so many times he gets tired. And it's just the craziest tactics.
What a wild tactic
and he done it. And that's why many see him as... I don't see Muhammad Ali as the greatest boxer ever. I see him as the greatest human being to ever put on boxing gloves for what he stood for. I see Roy Jones Jr. In this prime as the greatest I've ever seen, you know, full stop. Followed by the likes of Sugar Ray Robinson, your Ray Leonard, your Muhammad Ali's. But as for a heavyweight with achievements, Muhammad Ali has got to rank number 1.
Well, fair enough. Well, great knowledge there from the man himself. What else we got here? Okay, in terms of 2025 now, new year in boxing, we saw, I think, 4 undisputed champions crowned last year. Who are you looking forward to seeing the most this year and kind of achieving their potential?
I want to see Tank more active.
Yeah.
I rate him massively. I think he's a brilliant fighter. I want to see Conor McGregor back out there.
Yeah.
It's been a hard couple of years for him.
It's looking like it will happen now. I think you spoke about Tank there. He did tweet something before Christmas, didn't he, that the fight with Lamont Roach was off, but he hasn't heard anything about it, so maybe it's back on now.
I don't know.
Bit strange.
I mean, it's just it's very messy over at PBC.
Yeah.
It really is, and the fight is just not active.
That's the problem,
from the Charlos to Tank to Spence, just like they're not out there, they're not fighting.
Yeah.
And I just want to see them all fight. So there's so much going on. But there's still so many quality fighters, and Canelo's still around.
Yeah.
Got Bivol, Beterbiev.
The rematch,
the rematch is happening.
It's only 6 weeks away.
You've got Dubois and Parker. That's a brilliant fight, standalone fight on its own.
Yeah.
His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh is once again, dragging people out and getting them out again.
Good to see.
Making big shows. So there's so much to look forward to in the new year.
It's going to be a great year.
I think big fights will materialise on their own.
Conor Benn's quit social media now, so he says. Well, he announced that on social media, which is a bit ironic. But he said his target for the year is to win the WBC welterweight title. So maybe by quitting social media, he's gone into his shell to get ready for that. So hopefully we'll see that.
You can't blame him.
No. What else have we got here? Jai Opetaia.
quality fighter.
Yeah, fighting on Wednesday, isn't he?
I'd love to see him and Gilberto Ramirez.
Yeah, that could be. Do you think he's the future of the the cruiserweight division?
Yeah, I think he's the best cruiserweight in the world.
He's got some steel, scary visions.
He's a determined individual.
Very much.
You know,
so,
he's very driven. He says exactly what he thinks. There's no like faffing about. He just says what he sees. And Anika, the kid who's fighting him on Wednesday, I believe.
Yeah, Wednesday night. Yeah.
He's not a bad kid. Very skillful, talented, but can he keep Jai Opetaia off him? Probably not.
No, you'd imagine not. But was it Jai Opetaia had the broken jaw, didn't he? He fought
did
through the broken
Marius
jaw.
Breidis. He got his jaw broken in the third round. The Marius Breidis fight many years ago.
Yeah.
And he fights through it and wins on points.
Yeah, his corner were telling him to just pull him out, and he said no chance.
No one. Listen, if you can still throw punches, you're good to go. I just think any fighter worth his salt is not going to be given up.
No way.
On a stool, in my opinion. You can't do it.
Yeah.
Just knock me out.
We've had words, haven't we, about spewing it before. He's not one to spew it.
No,
no
he's
chance.
not, definitely
no
not.
chance. Have you heard about Conor McGregor and Logan Paul's $500 million boxing match out in India?
I've heard rumours about it, but is it true? You just never know with Conor.
Right, yeah.
But any event that Conor's part of is astronomical. It's huge.
It would be huge, wouldn't it? Yeah. I think it does seem like it's got some kind of legs in it, but
listen, when you're talking 250 million, you're going to get Conor McGregor at the table.
Huge money, yeah, huge money. It would be good to see him back because it doesn't look like he'll be fighting in the UFC anytime soon. So
it doesn't, but he's still contracted to 2 more fights, so I don't think you'll see him in a boxing ring before you'll see him back in a cage.
Okay, so that has to happen first, you reckon?
I believe so, yeah.
We'll see. And who do you predict? Because Logan Paul's in WWE, isn't he?
Logan Paul is a really good athlete, and you know what? He gave Mayweather hell.
Yeah.
When he fought Mayweather, he was nuts. He just swinging away, going nuts. He's so physically strong, and his game is anything. So, you'd have to take your hat off to him. He's not a boxer.
No.
He's primarily a wrestler.
Yeah.
And he's doing what he's doing in the WWE. As we know, that's a soap. It's an opera.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it doesn't deter from how great of an athlete he is.
No, true.
He'll get in there, let his hands go. Connor's a fighter. He's a combat man.
He's got that winning instinct, doesn't he?
He's not a boxer, but it'd be interesting, and it'd be very... I mean, it could be very embarrassing for him, because if you do not turn up in shape against someone like Logan Paul, he'll just throw slaps and punches at you all night, but he can do it for the whole night, as Mayweather found out.
You'd imagine there'll be no kind of contracting about no knockouts in that. It'll be just a straight fight. We'd hope so anyway, but you never know, do you really?
Fingers crossed.
Another one with a big future fighter, with a big future, Moses Itoma. We saw him with a rapid knockout on the undercard.
Dempsey McKean.
Yeah, Dempsey McKean, yeah. Well, how far can he go? Have we spoken about him before? I'm not sure we have, but he really does look like
I've mentioned a few times about him. I just think he's exceptional. Everything
fighter,
about him. His demeanour, his attitude, everything is in his own time. He presses when he wants. He's quality. I just think he's very, very good, and then add to that he's a southpaw as well. Yeah. And the only issue and worry is, but I say this, and it's already been proven wrong by Alexander Usyk, is his size. But he's a similar size to Alexander Usyk, might be a little bit bigger even.
That's true. And he's only 19, isn't he? So
he's only a baby. He's going to fill out, but you need him a few more inches going that way.
I see what you mean. Yeah, can't fill out vertically.
No, you just want that reach to be a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. Yeah. But I think he's a brilliant fighter. I really, really do. And I think within 18 months, he'll be fighting for a world heavyweight title.
Yeah, within 18 months.
Within 18 months. I mean, listen,
Incredible.
He could possibly be looking towards at the end of this year. If he has a good enough year.
Yeah.
I think the thing with Moses Itoma is he's willing to face anyone.
Yeah, no fear in him at all.
No, there's no fear. And I just think, given a little bit more experience, I'd favour him to beat the next crop of heavyweights, the likes of Daniel Dubois, the likes of... I don't even know outside of Daniel
Dubois or someone maybe. You could see him going in with him. Everyone seems to be scared of him. We've called him the bogeyman before, haven't we?
I heard the talk about Bacoli, and I think he is a good fighter, and I think he's done really well after the Michael Hunter fight, but he's got to revisit that. I just don't understand when you're in a close fight with someone and you've lost or you've been in a draw, like run it back. I've been in 3 or 4 close fights, and I've ran every single one of them back.
Yeah.
I've had losses. Someone asked me today, why didn't you face Alexander Usyk again? Because I found out he's just better than me. So he said, why didn't you face Adonis Stevenson again? Because anyone who knows me knows I was completely stone cold dead at 175.
The weight,
At the weight, so
yeah,
I faced everyone else who I had a close fight with. I faced again and beat them. And I think, you know, from whether it was Nathan Cleverly, whether it was Over McKenzie, whether it was David Hay, whether it was Isaac Chilemba, all these people I faced in rematches, I won. And I just can't understand why these fighters, if you're in a close, hard fight, it's like I take my hat off to Jack Cattrall and Josh Taylor. They ran it back.
They did, they did.
Ran it back. And when fights are in close fights, or you've got a decision you don't think you deserved, or like I stopped Over McKenzie in the 7th or 8th round the first fight, and I held my hands up and said the referee made a mistake. He shouldn't have. You robbed me of my glory. I thought you robbed me of a nasty knockout there. I was on the verge of laying him out cold.
Right.
So I gave him a rematch. I didn't have to.
No.
My promoter at the time told me I didn't have to. But I said, you know what? No, I'm going to run it back and I'm going to show you what I can do.
You're a man of integrity, and that's how you proved it there. What did you make of the decision in the first fight? You probably have commented on it, but
I thought Dave done enough. But when I've heard the word robbery used, I mean, that was a bit strong.
Harsh,
I mean, you know,
surprised that none of the judges saw it as a draw.
You can't. Not that. I mean, I thought Dave done enough on the night.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that.
You know, you've got to look at the early rounds in the fight, and to be fair to Dave, he weren't throwing much back, and he was getting beat up in the first half of the fight.
Yeah, didn't hardly throw any
No,
punches in the
he
first
just
round,
wanted to absorb what Johnny had, and then let's say, like, I'm still
here. Do you
here.
regret not finishing the fight, or could he have done more to knock him out, do you think, or was he being a bit kind of placid at the end
I
there?
I just think Dave Allen's at that point in his career where, you know, it's easy come, easy go. He's not
too...
Is he really interested? Is he really willing to put his life on the line and really go for it? I mean, does he still, what's his ambitions? It's probably money. Right. And I think if he turns Johnny Fisher over in that last round and gets rid of him, everyone's just going, I'm not fighting him.
Yeah, that's true. So it kind of depletes his.
You let it back in. You let him back in, and you give yourself that extra rematch. You give yourself a bigger platform. Now, I'm not saying that he knew that or he done that, but subconsciously, you never know what's going through a fighter's mind.
Yeah, interesting theory.
And he absorbed an awful lot off Johnny Fisher.
Yeah, a lot of credit to Johnny Fisher as well for the
Johnny showed big balls, mate.
Huge,
and you've got to give him an awful lot of credit. He showed big balls, and it's not nice in the heavy division when you're tired and someone's coming at you.
Perforated eardrum from early. I mean, he went through the...
It was a good fight. Like I said, I'm not going to use the word robbery. Lennox Lewis against Evander Holyfield one, that's a robbery. You know, you can't start using the same phrase for, you know, fights like Johnny Fisher and Dave Allen as you do for Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield.
Not on the same level, was it?
There's, like I said, I thought Dave done enough.
Yeah.
But he didn't get it, and
now we get to see it all over again.
We get to see it all over again, and if anything, it was in his hands to do something about it.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
He should have put his foot on the gas.
One more about another one we need to see run back. Liam Cameron and Ben Whittaker. Apparently Liam Cameron claims that Ben Shalom has rejected a very good offer to stage their much anticipated rematch. Do you think Ben Whittaker's a bit scared of that rematch? Would he rather go elsewhere? He needs to go and prove himself
Once
again.
He's got to revisit it. He knows it was a close fight. It was a very disputed call by the referee. Give him what he gave.
The way it ended with him going over the top ropes.
The way he stopped it. It was... He's got to revisit it. Yeah, you can't. I'm not going to sit here and say one rule for one rule for the other. Yeah. Johnny Fisher's doing an honourable, noble thing. He's revisiting the nightmare.
That's what Ben Whittaker
needs to revisit the nightmare and go back in with Liam Cameron. He more than deserves a shot.
Quick word about Dennis McCann, sadly failing a drugs test prior to his fight with Peter McGregor. Dr. Usman, his name kind of rings bells around boxing, not necessarily in a good way. He was involved once again. I think he was involved with when Amir Khan failed his test. Conor Ben failed his test. Do you think it's becoming more than a coincidence now with this guy, Dr. Usman?
I think it's unfair to literally wipe this fella out.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about him. I've never met him. But, you know, people... Listen, if you're failing drug tests for performance-enhancing drugs and steroids, just get banned. Just throw them out of the sport.
Yeah.
I know Dennis is a good kid. I really like him. But you can't explain to me how them substances are in your body, because they're like backstreet substances.
Right. Yeah.
They're like proper weightlifting, stupid substances to take.
You think it's because it's almost like getting caught before the fight is obviously better than getting caught after the fight because for his opponent's sake.
Yeah, it is.
But it's almost like because it would be a random. Would have been a random test, wouldn't it? Wouldn't have been like a urine test after the fight.
You know what? They all know. When you signed up to the whereabouts and they know your every move, you know, they know where you wake up every day. Do you know where you rest? Do you know where you know? Do you know if you're going on? Do you know everything? I've been on that program. I was on it for years and years and years because I always chased the WBC.
Yeah.
So I must have been on that program for 7-8 years.
That's the one where they can come literally any
and
time.
They knew where I woke up every single day. They knew obviously where my head rested every single night for 7-8 years. I've done over 100 tests, amateur and pro.
Yeah. Well, that's it as well, because that's going to affect the whole future of your career.
That could have
when
been,
you're taking that much.
Dennis McCann versus Peter McGregor could have been a card topper anyway. That could have been a whole bill off.
Yeah.
It's thankfully to his excellency, he keeps Peter McGregor on the bill, gets him paid, gets him fighting, and he was in a good fight, by the way. And that, thankfully, you know, obviously top of the bill was Usyk and Fury. So it's just it's madness. If someone's got to do something about it. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Once the whole sport is running off one set of rules, that's when we'll see progress in boxing. Because that's when someone gets banned for a drug test, all the sanctioning bodies, all the governing bodies, everyone bans them.
Yeah.
It's not like I can piss off to Texas and go, right, you know what, I'm going to fight in Texas. No, if you fail a drug test, I'll get banned for life or banned for 2 years, whatever it is.
Globally.
But globally, we need a whole thing to come together. And I think with the position His Excellency's in Turkey Al-Sheikh now, I think he's the man who can do it because
he has that much influence.
He has that much influence over boxing. He's probably the most powerful man in boxing right now.
For sure. Well, it's interesting. Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia. Obviously, Devin Haney's got a lawsuit against Ryan Garcia now. It could set a precedent, couldn't it? If the fighter who's tested positive is deemed to be guilty of assault and battery, you know, it would up the ante. Would you be in favour of something?
If he's successful with that, you're spot on. It would set a precedent, and it's nuts to think about it.
Yeah.
If he wins that case, that's insane.
Yeah, huge.
I mean,
huge for boxing.
It is, but I don't. It's a minefield. It really is. I don't know where you go from there. Then.
Right. Yeah.
I genuinely don't know where you go. Like I said, not every fighter's got millions like Ryan Garcia has. So some fighters can walk into the ring, juiced out of the tits and don't care.
Yeah.
Sue me. I ain't got it, but I'm going to win.
Yeah, fair.
And some fighters are like that. I know, I've been around a lot of fights in my lifetime, and I just think I can't get my head around fighters who are going to take something, put it in the body, and go to the ring knowing they've got an unfair advantage.
Yeah. No.
I mean, I used to feel bad sometimes when I had Grant gloves on and my opponent didn't. And I think, you idiots, how have you not picked these gloves? Because the Grant gloves, I used to feel used to give me an advantage, and if the opponent didn't have them on, I think I've got one over on you here.
I see, because they've got less padding in them?
Yeah, it's not less padding, it's just
they feel like
the way the gloves are made. It's just,
and
certain gloves are made in certain ways. It's like the Mexico Reyes gloves years ago were made with horsehair. Well, it doesn't take rocket science to think what's nicer to be hit with foam or horsehair. The horsehair is going to move around and do things. So,
I see.
And it's just, I used to have thoughts like that before fights. I hope he's not got grandson. Then we get to the rules meeting the night before, and sometimes I'd face a fighter and I'd go, I've got grandson, or I've put rares on, he's put rivals on. Now, rival gloves are the best protective glove in the game. Nothing protects your hands better than rivals. I think they're the best glove for protecting your hands. And I had weak hands, by the way. But I was willing to put my weak hands at risk by putting them in Grants, because Grants are a puncher's glove.
Do more damage with the
opponent. And I know it's going to hit you 10 times more with Grants, and I'm also more likely to cut you.
Interesting.
So it's just little things like that, advantages, but I couldn't think of nothing worse than
that's a fair advantage.
That's that's me getting one over.
Exactly, and it psychologically helps you out there, but it's totally different from putting something in your body that's going to give you
in your body, mate. You just need banning for life. And I say once one's banned for life, I promise you'll see them just drop out the sport.
Yeah. Well, that's what we need to do then. Let's hope it does happen this year. Let's not finish on that note, though. Let's finish on a more positive note. Obviously, we've got like we said, the Bivol Beterbiev rematch coming up, which should be brilliant. The first match was incredible. Do you see this one going the same way, or do you see it turning out differently?
I do, but I think Bivol wins on points.
Eddie Hearn thought that should have been the outcome in the first match.
I don't know with the first one. I mean, it was close.
Yeah, it was close. Great
Once
fight.
again, I thought it could have went either way. I thought Bivol was the better boxer on the night, but I thought Beterbiev pressed the whole night, and he outpunched.
Outworked him,
he just outworked him.
Yeah.
And I think them championship rounds in that fight were big. I did like Bivol's boxing, so Bivol's shown us he has the ability. I think he'll learn his lesson from the first fight. Yeah. And let's be honest, if anyone needed it to be a short amount of time between the turnaround time, it was Beterbiev, because he's the guy who's getting older. He's 40. He's coming up to 40.
True. You don't think of him being that old, but he is actually that old, isn't he?
He's an amazing athlete.
Incredible
I've got
guy.
all the respect in the world for him. I think he's an amazing athlete.
Yeah, brilliant.
And he just seriously underrated fighter. Very, very good, exceptional amateur boxer.
Yeah.
Brilliant, he really is, but Father Time waits for no one, and I just think Bivol, with the better footwork, if he uses it to the full capability this time, I just think he can manoeuvre himself around Artur Beterbiev, but never write someone off with that kind of power. He's probably, pound for pound, the biggest puncher the light heavyweight division's ever seen. I would go as far as saying that. I've never seen a puncher as big. I mean, I think of Archie more when I think about someone like him, but ultimately, I think Beterbiev's the biggest puncher the light heavyweight division's ever seen.
Big claim, big claim. And if Bivol wins this, then we have to have the trilogy as well, don't we? Hopefully.
Definitely. It's all about how much more can Beterbiev's body take.
True, yeah.
And then if Beterbiev is successful, I think the crowning fight and the fight I'd love to see is Jai Optaia versus Beterbiev. I think that is
Could
just
be huge, couldn't
mouth-watering.
Could be huge.
You might see then size really matters, but then on the other hand, Jai isn't the biggest cruiserweight. Like, I've stood with Jai, and Jai's just not. He's not the biggest. Okay. Don't get me wrong, he's the best.
Samoan physique, though, isn't he?
He's the best. He's just not the biggest.
Yeah.
You don't always have to be the biggest to be the best, as we've seen with Alexander Usyk.
Very true, very true. So much to look forward to this year.
Yeah.
Stay tuned to Fight Lens. Tony Bellew, the Bomber, thank you once again. You're a legend. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much, boys.
Good stuff.
It was a pleasure.